All right, this week we're looking at the question of agency, and the first question is to define what an agency is. The important thing about an agency is the relationship that exists between the principal and the agent. The relationship is a contractual relationship, so we're talking about something in contract. But of course, when people think about agency, they think about a relationship that is based upon a written contract, like a real estate agent working for someone as a vendor selling a house. But in fact, the agency relationship, more often than not, is based upon an implied contract where there is no contractual written document. An employee is an agent of the employer, but of course there is often a written employment contract or written terms to the contract of employment. So it's a legal relationship, it's a contractual relationship, it's a relationship between the principal and the agent. And what's significant about the agency relationship, think of A, B, and C, A being the principal, B being the agent, and C being some other third party. What's significant about the agency relationship is that A, because B is an agent, can enter into a contractual relationship with C. So the privity of contract problem, where A has a contract with B and B forms a contract with C, the privity problem, normally that there's no connection directly between A and C, is avoided because B is the agent of A. So an agent can bind the principal in relations, contractual relations, with third parties, and that's the significance of agency. So what's the difference then between express actual authority and implied actual authority? So we're talking about authority. So we're talking about what's the realm, what's the scope, or as the High Court of Australia described it, what are the four corners? And, you know, that's that modern, when we talk about going to the video referee in sport now, what are the four corners of the agency relationship? What's something that the agent can do within their realm, within their scope? And what's something that's outside of that scope, outside of that realm, and therefore not within the agency? That's what we're talking about here. So actual express authority is given by the principal in writing or orally to the agent. And usually it'll be something like a power of attorney or a specific deed or a contractual document. Implied authority comes from conduct or circumstances which lead to this implication of the authority. And obviously it's harder to identify it when it's implied. It may be the appointment of an agent to a particular position within a company. Maybe the agent is the company secretary or the company, I shouldn't say company secretary because that has corporations law connotations, but maybe they're given the title car park attendant. So something that has to do with their employment as a car park attendant would then be potentially the implied authority derived from their employment relationship, i.e. the scope of their authority would come from that. So the third then one is, what is ostensible authority? Well, this is the authority that appears to the third party, to others. The principal gives the agent the authority by making representations or placing the agent in some role or position or some particular set of circumstances where it appears to a third party that the person has the authority. So the way I like to think about this is, let's say I gave someone a uniform and I said, I want you to wear this uniform, and the uniform might have some writing on it. Maybe it has the company logo, maybe it has some description of what the person does under the company logo on the uniform. Well, a person then dealing with that individual might presume immediately, based upon or might presume an ostensible authority based upon that uniform and the circumstances. So I've cloaked or armed that individual in a way that creates ostensible authority. The significant thing here is that if this has occurred, I have to be the principal cloaking them or giving them this creating this ostensible authority. All right. What is a secret commission? So there are, in fact, provisions in the criminal law, in the federal criminal law, and in the Commonwealth criminal law, I should say, and the state criminal code, as it's called, about secret commissions or prohibiting secret commissions. The bribery, of course, of a public official is an offence, as is the acceptance of secret payments and commissions by an agent, secret commissions. So what we're talking about is where an agent is receiving a commission without any knowledge on the part of the principal. I mean, if you think about it straight away, it's outside of the scope of the agency. It's the agent doing something they're not supposed to do. And the principal has the right to recover if those secret commissions constitute a secret profit that should have gone to the principal, and the recovery could occur under common law. 13.8. Marilyn owns a computer shop. She employs several salespeople plus a couple of people to assemble and repair computers. Her senior salesperson is Duncan, who is tempted to leave and work for his brother-in-law in a higher status job. To try to keep him working at her shop, Marilyn gives Duncan a pay increase in the title of manager. Although his job remains essentially selling to customers and he is given no actual authority to make other business decisions, Marilyn introduces Duncan to dealers and customers as manager and has him wearing a badge saying it. Shane, a computer components wholesaler, visits the shop one day when Marilyn is out supervising the installation of a computer network. Shane persuades Duncan to sign an order for a large quantity of components for the shop. Advise Marilyn whether the order binds her. So the first question we have to ask here is whether Duncan actually has authority to order these components, and if he has apparent. Does he have actual authority or implied actual authority? So has he been told he can do it? And if he hasn't been told he can do it actually, does he have ostensible authority? Has Marilyn armed him, cloaked him with sufficient, cloaked him in a way that allows third parties to work on the assumption that he does have the authority? So we need to work out whether Marilyn has represented to Shane, i.e. ostensible authority, that Duncan, as the manager, does have this potential authority. I think it is likely. If you think about it, it's the classic scenario that I was talking about. You've got, he's been given the title of manager. He has a badge saying it, etc., etc. And so what the question then is factually, what would we expect what would a reasonable person think that Duncan would be able to do as the manager of a computer shop? And I think it's probably quite fair to say that a manager of a computer shop would normally have the ability to go and buy or to go and do an order like this, I think, in the minds of a reasonable person. And so in those circumstances, there is ostensible authority and Marilyn will be bound by the order. The question then is, if Marilyn's bound to the third party, can Marilyn take an action against the agent? And the reality of that is she could, and she may be able to recover in terms of the order that she needs to complete with the third party. All right, the next question. James is appointed as the agent of Moonshine Insurance. Under their agreement, James is authorised to issue deposit guarantees on behalf of Moonshine Insurance, but only up to a maximum of $50,000. Without obtaining Moonshine Insurance's approval, James issues 3 deposit guarantees in the amounts of $45,000, $52,000 and $55,000. Claims have now been submitted for payment of all 3 guarantees is MI bound. Although James has exceeded his actual authority, the question then is once again a question of apparent or ostensible authority, because James is appointed the agent, and as agent he is authorised to issue deposit guarantees, even though there's a cap. He's got the authority to do something, and third parties will work on that assumption, and Moonshine Insurance will then be bound by what he has done. But of course, where he's exceeded his scope, his 4 corners, James will be liable back to Moonshine Insurance, but Moonshine Insurance will be liable to those third parties. Scott is a real estate agent. He is selling a block of home units off the plan for Prestige Developments. Scott becomes aware that a competing development has run into problems with council approval and is not likely to proceed. This will mean the Prestige Development units will be worth much more than planned. Seeing a commercial opportunity, Scott does 2 things. He helps finance a friend to buy several of the units to on-sell later at a big profit, which they will split. In return for a cash payment, he tells several buyers of the likely increase in value of the units. After all the units in the block are sold, it becomes clear to Prestige Developments what has happened. Advise them. So the question here is, Scott is a real estate agent. He may not have breached clearly his contractual obligations, but he's breached his equitable obligations. He's done things which are unfair on the part of the agent towards the principal. And there are a number of equitable obligations he's breached. He hasn't acted in good faith. He hasn't told the principal in all of the ways that they could have been told of all of the things that were occurring. He hasn't made full disclosure to the principal of things where he will benefit personally. If he's bought an interest or he benefits personally in terms of an interest, then he should have communicated that before it occurred, particularly where he's an agent, of course. He's entitled to a commission, but he's not entitled to a secret commission. He's not entitled to make a secret profit. And there'll be criminal liability for him as well as civil liability. That is, he'll be liable under the criminal law as well as under the commercial law. The other thing here is that for Scott, there may also be tortious duties in tort against him in addition to the duties in equity. But equity and contract are the starting points, and then tort's the third one to look at.